I get through the last switchback with the engine idling low, headlights off, rolling on momentum because light carries in the mountains and sound carries even farther. The access road is half plowed from old habit, half choked by early storms. A metal gate blocks the final stretch. Someone tried to lock it again after the world came apart. The chain is still there, cut clean, the lock missing. I push the gate open with my shoulder, keep my body turned so I can see the tree line, then slide through and close it again. I do not want an open invitation behind me. The resort sits in its bowl of dark timber and white slopes, buildings stacked at the base area, lift lines frozen mid-air, chairs hanging empty. Every window is black. No music, no parking lot chatter. The big sign over the drop-off lane is still lit by nothing, letters catching my beam for half a second. I kill the car before the final bend and coast into a service pullout. Then I sit with my hands on the wheel, listening. Not for some dramatic cue, just for what is always there. Wind, a loose metal panel tapping somewhere, snow sliding off a roof in a soft rush. Nothing else answers. I take the keys, the pack, the pry bar, and the rifle. I leave the rest. I have learned not to carry my whole life in one trip. I step out slow and close the door with my palm pressed flat. No slam, no bounce. The cold has a way of making every hinge sound louder. I move around the car and keep low, using the hood as cover while I look across the base area. The main lodge is the biggest silhouette. 4 floors with guest windows above and service doors below. To the left sits a smaller building with a steep roof, probably rentals and ski school. To the right is a low, ugly block with roll-up doors. Maintenance. That one matters. I walk the perimeter first. Not brave. Careful. I stay in the shadow line where the lodge blocks the moon. Snow squeaks under my boots, even through the soft layer, so I place each foot and let my weight settle before the next step. I find tracks near the loading dock. Old human prints, days to weeks, partly filled. I find something else too, wandering marks where toes drag. The drag marks weave, stop, start again. The infected do that when nothing pushes it. It goes until it hears something or sees movement, then it commits. In cold weather it commits less, but it still goes. I do not head for the lobby. That is where everyone goes first, and where every bad idea gathers. Glass doors, wide open spaces, echoes, too many entrances. I aim for the underbelly. Every resort has a service level that tourists never notice. Deliveries, laundry, electrical rooms, storage, staff hallways, trash compactor, boiler plant. Places built for work, not comfort. Places with thick doors and concrete walls. Those places can keep a person alive if he can keep them warm without advertising. The first service door I test is locked. The second opens a finger width, then stops on a chain. Good. Someone cared once. I slide the pry bar in, lift the chain link and set it down slow so it does not clink. The door gives me a thin breath of air that smells of old fryer grease and detergent. I slip inside and pull it shut. The darkness is real in there, dense enough that even the moonlight behind me dies fast. I stand still until my eyes pick out shapes. A cart, a mop bucket, a stacked case of paper towels that slumps from moisture. I click my light on for a second, aimed at the floor, then off. The hallway runs long with doors on both sides, most marked with faded labels: housekeeping, linen, electrical, staff lockers. I pick electrical first. If I can get power without making noise, I can run a few things and stretch supplies. If I cannot, I still need to understand where the panels are and what runs where. I try the door, locked. I shift to linen and it opens. Inside, shelves of folded sheets, stacks of towels, bins of cleaning rags. All of it smells clean in the way of industrial detergent. That smell is comfort and warning at the same time. Comfort because it means nobody has been living in here with smoke and sweat. Warning because it means nobody has been living in here with smoke and sweat. I leave linen and head deeper. The hallway doglegs and drops a half flight of concrete stairs to a lower corridor with pipes overhead. I run my hand along the wall. Cold concrete, damp in spots. I find a metal door with a push bar and a small window. Outside it is the loading bay, a sheltered pocket under the lodge. The roll-up door is down. Snow has drifted against it. Good. There is a smaller man door beside it. I check it. Locked, but the frame is solid. I can work with that. A sound comes from above, faint, not a voice. A footstep? No, a settling creak, then a soft scrape. I freeze where I stand, light off, body angled toward the stairwell. The building answers with nothing more. I do not move for a long count. Then I take one step at a time and keep my weight centered. I find the stairwell door and open it a crack. Dark up the stairs, no movement. The stairwell smells of cold air and dust. I close it again. My rules start right there. Doors closed, paths controlled, noise limited. I pick a room for the first night that gives me 3 things. One door, no windows, and a way out that is not the main corridor. I settle on a small storage closet off the lower corridor. It has a solid door, no vents big enough for a hand, and it backs against the loading bay wall. I drag 2 shelving units in front of the door from inside, not to stop a determined person, but to slow a surprised one. I lay my sleeping bag on flattened cardboard. Then I take 15 minutes to do the basic work that has kept me alive more than any weapon. I map the nearest exits in my head, and I stage my gear so I can grab it without fumbling. I do not sleep much. I rest. I close my eyes in short blocks. Wake, listen, check the door, check the hallway through a crack. Every time I wake, I find myself reaching for the same things. Touch-checking the zipper pull on the bag, the flashlight, the water bottle. I do it until I stop noticing I am doing it. Near morning, a gust hits the building and the roll-up door groans. I sit up, still, and wait for the second sound that would mean it was not wind. It stays wind. At first light, I move. Not upstairs, not yet. I start by claiming the service level. I clear each room in a slow loop. Open door, light sweep low, light sweep high, listen, step in, close door, repeat. I find the kitchen first. Huge stainless steel, dead vents, a line of fryers and griddles, walk-in coolers that smell faintly sour from old spoilage. I do not linger. Kitchens are tempting. Kitchens are also open, with 100 hiding places. I take only what is obvious and safe. Sealed boxes of salt, unopened cases of paper cups, a few canned goods from a high shelf that never got raided. I carry it back to my closet room and stash it. Next, I find staff lockers and a laundry room. The laundry room matters because it has drains and hot water lines, even if the system is dead. Pipes tell stories. If the building had frozen solid, I would see burst sections and rust streaks. I see none in the first run. That means the worst freezing has not hit yet, or the resort was kept warm for a while after closure. Either way, the clock is ticking. Winter will do what winter does. It will find every weak spot. The maintenance block outside the lodge is locked up tight. I approach it across the drifted lot, keeping the lodge between me and the tree line. The building is low and built to take abuse, with concrete walls and roll-up doors. I circle it and find a man door on the back, partly hidden by stacked pallets. The lock is a commercial deadbolt, but the frame is old wood, swollen from seasons. The pry bar slides in, and with steady pressure, the latch gives. The door opens to a smell of oil, rubber, and cold metal. Inside are tools I have been missing for months. Real wrenches, pipe cutters, a battery charger, bins of fasteners, coils of wire, shelves of spare parts labeled in a system that used to make sense to someone who had a paycheck. There is a snowmobile on a stand with its track off, a small tractor with chains on the tires, and in the back, the prize. A snowcat, parked, keys not in it, fuel cap locked. I do not touch it yet. Big machines make big problems if you cannot feed them. I focus on what keeps me alive now. Hand tools, propane cylinders, batteries, extension cords, tarps, a few cans of fuel stabilizer. I also find a rack of ski patrol gear. Not the fun stuff, the practical stuff. Medical bags, splints, blankets, headlamps, radios with dead battery packs. I take the blankets and the headlamps. I take a small first aid kit. I leave the radios. I have carried dead radios long enough to respect the weight of useless hope. Back in the lodge, I find the electrical room by following conduit and listening for the hollow sound behind walls. The door is locked, but the hinges are exposed. I pop the pins with a screwdriver and a punch, catch the door before it drops. Inside, panels line the wall, and a main disconnect sits above a bank of breakers. Everything is labeled with faded marker: lobby, kitchen, boiler, guest rooms, exterior lights, lifts. The big breakers are all off. That is either safety or sabotage. I do not assume good intent. I check for obvious damage. None. No burnt smell, no melted insulation. I leave it off for now. Power without a plan is a way to get noticed. I spend the afternoon choosing the real shelter space. The closet room was a first-night move. The winter shelter needs more. It needs a buffer from the outside. A place to melt snow without filling the building with steam. A place to store food where rodents cannot get it. A place to use a stove without smoke leaking in the wrong direction. A place to retreat if the service level is breached. I settle on a maintenance corridor under the guest wing that leads to a sealed mechanical room with concrete walls and one heavy door. Inside are pumps, valves, and a floor drain. There is also a vent shaft that runs up toward the roof, meant for exhaust. That vent can be my friend if I treat it with respect. I move my supplies in trips, never stacking everything in the open. I set up 2 caches, one in the mechanical room, one in a smaller adjacent room with shelving. If I lose one, I might keep the other. I hang blankets over door gaps to cut drafts. I lay foam mats on the floor. I bring down a metal desk and a chair from a staff office so I can work without sitting in the cold. I hang a simple string line down the corridor with small bells clipped from holiday decor I found in a storage bin. Anyone walking through will tell on himself. Before night, I go upstairs for the first time. I do it fast and focused. The guest floors are a maze of identical doors and carpeted halls that swallow sound. I hate it up there. Too many blind corners. Too many rooms that can hide a problem. Still, there is value. I raid blankets, extra pillows sealed in plastic, unopened soap, batteries from emergency lights, and a small pile of snack bars from a mini fridge that never got cleared. I also find something that stops me cold in the middle of a hallway. A smear on the carpet, dark and dried, leading to a door that is partly open. I do not step closer. I do not need the details. I back away, slow, and I leave that floor alone. Some doors stay closed for a reason. Night falls early now. I do not turn on any lights. I sit in the mechanical room with the door cracked, watching the corridor. I eat cold food to avoid smell. I drink water sparingly. My water plan is simple for the moment. Melt snow in small batches, boil it, cool it, store it. I do not trust rooftop melt without boiling. The world has too many unseen problems now. The first time I melt snow, I do it with a small camping stove I took from a guest closet. Propane canisters are a limited resource, but early winter is the time to spend a little to gain control. I set the pot on the stove, fill it with clean snow from a drift on the loading bay roof, and watch it collapse into a thin pool. It takes forever. Snow is mostly air. I keep the flame low, not for romance, but because I want less exhaust and less heat waste. I crack the mechanical room vent damper a little so fumes have a path. I do not want to wake up, never. On the third day, I see the first infected at the base area. It stands near the ski school building, head angled, body stiff. It is dressed in a puffy jacket, one glove missing. It does not wander far. It turns in place and then stops. The cold has not killed it. It has slowed it. Cold changes movement. It makes the infected less unpredictable, but it also makes them linger. A slow problem can become a fixed problem. A fixed problem attracts other problems. I spend that afternoon blocking access points. The service level has multiple stairwells and 2 elevator shafts. I do not have the strength to destroy stairs, but I can deny them. I drag a heavy steel shelving unit across one stairwell door from inside and run a ratchet strap through the handles. I wedge a doorstop under the gap. I do the same to the other stairwell. Elevators are worse. Elevator doors are thin and easy to pry. I open the elevator shaft access panel in the service hallway and find the maintenance lockout. I cannot make it perfect, but I can stop the elevator from opening on my level, and I can jam the door with a steel bar. If someone wants in badly enough, he can still get in. The goal is time. Time gives choices. I also make a silent habit. Every time I move through the corridor, I touch each door with the back of my fingers. If a door sits wrong, I feel it. If a latch is not seated, I feel it. If someone passed through, I might catch it before it catches me. Snow comes hard the next week, a storm that smothers everything, then a second storm that builds on top of the first. The resort disappears in white. The road I drove up vanishes. That is good and bad. Good because it hides my tracks and discourages casual visitors. Bad because it traps me in a place that will punish mistakes. I spend hours clearing snow away from the loading bay door so it does not freeze shut under pressure. I do it with a shovel found in maintenance, working in short bursts, pausing to listen every minute. The mountain is quiet in a way that makes every scrape of shovel feel rude. The first real winter problem hits with a sound, not a sight. A sharp crack from somewhere overhead, then a slow drip that becomes a steady patter in a hallway. I trace it to a pipe joint that has split in a ceiling run near the laundry room. It is not a burst with pressure since the system is dead, but it is a leak from trapped water in a low point. The water runs and then freezes on the floor, turning concrete into a hazard. I shut it down by cutting the pipe section and capping it with a compression fitting from the maintenance shop. The work takes an hour of cold fingers and careful tool placement. When it is done, I mop up the ice with towels and dump them outside to freeze solid. That leak is a warning. I start draining what I can. I find the main water shutoff. Then I open low-point drains and let gravity do the rest. I do not care about saving the plumbing for tourists. I care about reducing surprises. When I crack a valve and a thin stream of brown water trickles out, I watch it and picture every pipe run in the walls. Water hides. Water expands. Water wins. I keep heat low. I do not light a fireplace upstairs. I do not run the kitchen stoves. I choose one heat source that I can control. A small wood stove I drag in from a staff lounge, heavy and dented, but intact. The stovepipe is the hard part. I do not punch a new hole through the building. That would leave a mark outside and invite attention. I route the pipe into the existing mechanical vent shaft, using sheet metal and high-temp tape to seal gaps. It is not perfect, but it keeps smoke confined and sends it out through a rooftop vent that already looks like part of the building. The first burn is small. I use dry scrap wood from broken pallets and a few pieces of 2x4. I watch the draft. I watch for smoke backflow. I walk the corridors and sniff near doors and vents. Smoke is betrayal. Smoke tells anyone in the valley that a warm human is inside. The rooftop vent breathes a faint ribbon that disappears fast in the cold air. That is what I need. Minimal, brief, easy to miss. I settle into a pattern that is not comfort, but survival. Morning, I check exterior through a service window. I count infected. I look for fresh tracks. I clear snow away from doors and vents. Midday, I scavenge inside the lodge, focusing on sealed food and maintenance supplies. Afternoon, I work on structure. Reinforce doors, stage escape routes, repair minor failures. Night, I run the stove for short intervals to warm the mechanical room and to melt water. I sleep in blocks. I wake and listen. I repeat. Weeks into winter, I find the resort emergency generator room. It is in a separate concrete chamber behind the maintenance corridor, with a heavy door and intake vents. The generator itself is a big diesel unit. The fuel tank is not full. Nothing is full anymore. Still, it has value. A generator can charge batteries, run a pump, power a small heater for a short time. It can also make noise that travels across the snow bowl. I stand in that room with my hand on the start switch, and I do not touch it. I decide on a rule. Generator only during storms, only during daylight, only for brief tasks, only when wind can carry sound away. I build a battery bank from what I find. Not a fancy system, just deep cycle batteries from resort equipment, wired to a basic inverter and a charger. I label each battery with tape and marker and track usage in a notebook. If one fails, I want to know it early. I charge them only when I run the generator. The rest of the time I use headlamps and a small lantern with a dim setting, covered by a towel so it does not leak under doors. In mid-December, the first travelers arrive. I know because my bell line speaks. A soft jingle, then silence, then another jingle. Not wind. Wind would rattle all of them. This is a foot brushing one, then a pause. Someone is moving slow, cautious. I kill my lantern and move to the corridor corner where I can see the service hallway through a crack. I keep the rifle low, muzzle pointed toward the floor, finger straight. I listen again. A distant thump, a whisper. I cannot make out words. I hear a cough, muffled. Human. A woman steps into the edge of my view. She is bundled in a ski jacket, hood up, goggles on her forehead, hair matted from sweat and snow. She carries a small pack and a metal trekking pole used as a staff. Behind her is a man, older, heavier, moving stiff. He holds a flashlight in a shaking hand and keeps sweeping it across doors. The woman sees the bell line and stops. She crouches and touches one bell, then looks down the corridor with her light off. She is not careless. That makes her more dangerous. I stay quiet until she moves closer. I want her inside my controlled zone, not near an exit where she can bolt and bring company later. When she reaches the junction where my corridor meets the service hallway, I speak in a low voice, steady, from behind cover. Stop right there. Lights off. Hands where I can see. My own voice sounds too loud to me. The woman freezes. The man freezes slower, then lowers his light. The woman answers without drama. We are not looking for trouble. We saw the resort and came in for shelter. His ankle is bad. She gestures toward the man without stepping forward. I can hear the choice in her words. Shelter, not supplies, not takeover. Still, words are cheap. I keep my position. One step back. Sit on the floor, both of you. Do it slow. She does it. The man grunts and sits with effort. I do not move closer yet. I ask simple questions and I keep them short. Names, where from, how long on the road, anyone behind them, anyone else in the resort. The woman says her name is Erin, the man is Thomas. They came up from a valley town after their last place got raided. No group behind them, no camp, just two people moving until legs gave out. Erin's voice stays level, but her hands keep adjusting the strap on her pack. Small movements that never stop. She is counting options. I respect that. I also do not let it run my life. I do not invite them into my mechanical room. I meet them halfway. I bring a blanket and a bottle of water and slide it across the floor to them. Erin takes it and offers something in return without being asked. We have a small can of stove fuel and some food. We can trade. That is the first good sign. People who plan to steal do not start with trade unless they are playing a long game. Still, long games exist. I set terms. One night in the loading bay area, not in my core space. I show them a spot near the roll-up door where the wind is blocked and the concrete stays dry. I give Thomas a splint and wraps from the patrol kit. Then I watch Erin help him without fumbling. She has done it before. I tell Erin that any light must be covered, any fire is banned, any loud noise means leaving. She nods once. No argument. That night I do not sleep at all. I sit in my corridor corner and listen to their movement. Erin whispers to Thomas. Long, quiet sentences I cannot hear. Thomas coughs now and then. I hear wrappers crinkle. I hear them settle. No wandering. No testing doors. No bell line jingle. Near midnight, Erin speaks louder for a moment, probably without meaning to. I hear one phrase clearly. We cannot freeze. That is honest. That is also the seed of conflict. People do bad things when cold wins. Morning brings wind and a pale sky. I check outside and see fresh tracks near the ski school building. More than before. The infected there has moved and another has joined it. Cold does not stop movement. It slows it and it changes it, but it does not end it. I tell Erin at dawn that she needs to move on. I do not negotiate it. I offer her a map torn from a resort brochure with roads marked and a warning about the gate. She does not beg. She does not threaten. She looks at Thomas and then back at me. We will leave when the wind drops. He cannot do the slope in this. I look at the snow blowing sideways in the loading bay gap, and I know she is right. Sending them out now risks them dying nearby, which risks them returning as a different problem. I allow a delay, not from kindness, from math. While they wait, I keep them busy. I hand Erin a shovel and point to the loading bay snowdrift. Clear that. Quiet. Keep your eyes out. Work turns strangers into known quantities. Aaron works without complaint. Thomas sits and watches the corridor, maybe on purpose, maybe because he has nothing else. Erin's movements stay controlled. She keeps checking the tree line through the bay gap. She is not relaxed here. That is good. Around noon, the wind eases. Erin shoulders her pack. Thomas stands with effort, leaning hard on his pole. Erin approaches me at a distance and slides a small can of stove fuel across the floor, plus 2 protein bars and a pack of instant soup. "That is all we can spare," she says. I nod and push a pouch of pain medicine back to her, plus a chemical hand warmer pack. Her eyes flick to it, and she closes her fingers around it fast. Then she forces her face back to neutral. "Thank you," she says. Then she takes Thomas and leaves through the same service door, stepping careful, closing it behind her. I watch their tracks fade into the blowing snow until I cannot see them. Then I do something that feels stupid but keeps me sane. I walk the corridor and touch every door again. I check every strap and wedge. I reset my bell line. I check the mechanical vent for soot leaks. I run a fingertip along the tape seam and feel only cold. No greasy smoke residue. Good. 2 days later, I find where Aaron and Thomas went wrong. Not because I follow them far, but because the mountain brings evidence back. A backpack sits half buried near the gate, straps frozen stiff, snow crusted over it. I approach slow, rifle ready, then crouch and pull it free. It is Thomas's pack. No body nearby, no drag marks, no blood, just an abandoned pack. That means one of 2 things. Thomas died, and Aaron took what she could and kept moving. Or Aaron and Thomas met someone who took everything else and left what was not worth the wait. Either way, the resort is not the only risk. The road is worse. I take the pack back inside and strip it for anything useful. A lighter, a headlamp with half-dead batteries, a small roll of duct tape, a torn family photo I do not look at for long. Winter deepens. The roof starts talking, not with words, with pressure noises, a low groan on storm nights, a sharp pop when the sun hits one side and not the other. Snow load is not a joke in a big lodge with wide spans. Resorts plan for it, but plans assume maintenance crews and plows and roof rakes and inspections. I become all of that. I climb to a service roof access door with a shovel and a rope. Then I step onto the roof with my body leaned forward, feet placed flat. I keep the rope tied to a vent pipe and around my waist. Not heroic, practical. One slip up here ends everything. I shovel in sections, pushing snow towards safe drop zones where it will fall onto drift piles, not onto doors or walkways I need. The wind bites at my face. My fingers go numb fast. I stop every few minutes and look across the slopes and tree line. Up here I can see the chairlift towers and the ridges beyond. I also can be seen. I keep my movements small. I do not stand tall against the sky longer than necessary. On one roof trip, I spot movement near the maintenance building. A single figure, not infected movement. Too purposeful. The figure walks the edge of the lot, stops, looks up at the lodge, then moves toward the loading bay. I back away from the roof edge and drop to a crouch behind an HVAC unit. I watch through a gap. The figure is a man, wearing a dark jacket and a backpack, carrying a rifle. He moves straight to the service door Aaron used. He tries it. It holds. He tries again, harder. He pauses, then moves to the next door. He is testing. I do not rush down. I do not sprint inside and slam doors. Noise would tell him there is someone to chase. Instead, I stay on the roof, move along the backside where the lodge blocks me, and climb down through a maintenance hatch that drops into a locked corridor near my shelter zone. I close it behind me, and I take a long route through back halls so my footsteps do not echo near the service entry. By the time I reach my corridor corner, the bell line remains still. That means he has not reached my zone. Good. I hear him in the distance, a faint rattle of a door handle, then a thud, then silence. He is careful. He is not breaking in with brute force. He is hunting for an open route. That kind of person does not want shelter. He wants ownership. I move to a secondary vantage where I can see the service hallway through a grate. I wait. Minutes pass. Then the man appears, stepping into the hallway, light off, rifle carried low. He moves with confidence built from experience, not from movies. I could shoot. I do not. Shooting in a building is a dinner bell. Sound bounces. It brings infected. It brings more people. Instead, I shift to a different plan. Make the resort feel empty and hostile without showing my hand. I take a small metal tray from the kitchen stash, and I set it on the far end of the hallway, near a corner he will pass. I thread fishing line across the floor at ankle height, tied to a chair leg and the tray. Simple trip alarm. I retreat to cover and wait. The man advances. He reaches the line and catches it. His boot snags, his weight shifts, and the tray skitters across tile with a sharp scrape. The sound rings. The man freezes, then turns his head toward the noise source, then toward the darker corridor beyond. He does not panic. He thinks. That is worse. He backs up 2 steps and raises his rifle toward the corridor. I stay still behind the grate and watch his shoulders tighten, his head angle change, his breathing controlled. He is listening for me. He hears nothing. Then the mountain answers, a faint moan from outside, close enough that the man hears it. The infected near ski school, drawn by that tray scrape, starts moving. Another voice joins it, then another, then the dragging footsteps that come with commitment. The man hears it and makes a fast choice. He turns and moves back the way he came, not running, but moving with urgency. He does not know the layout, and he does not want to get boxed in. The footsteps and moans grow louder near the far doors. A hard bang hits the service entry. Something outside has found the door. I do not celebrate. I hold position. I listen to the man retreat. I hear him reach the service door. I hear a struggle with the lock. I hear him swear under his breath. Mild. More frustration than fear. He works the door again. Then I hear it open and slam shut. Cold air floods in for a second, bringing the smell of snow and pine. The infected noises fade after a minute, trapped outside by locked doors, confused by the barrier. The resort settles again. That incident changes my routine. I stop using the same service door for outdoor trips. I create 2 exit options and I rotate them. I also start hiding my tracks. When I shovel wide, not just a narrow path. When I walk outside, I drag a branch behind me to blur prints in fresh snow when wind is calm. It is not perfect, but it buys uncertainty. Uncertainty keeps people cautious. By January, the cold sits heavy every night. My stovework becomes a balancing act. Too much heat cracks walls and reveals vents with unusual melt patterns. Too little heat means pipes freeze in ways I cannot predict. I find a middle ground. I keep the mechanical room just above freezing most days. Then I run a hotter burn for 1 hour every 3rd day to dry damp spots and to reset humidity. Damp is a quiet killer in winter shelters. It ruins insulation. It grows mildew. It makes everything feel colder than the air temperature says. Food becomes numbers. The resort pantry gave me a good start, but someone raided it before I arrived. What remains is not endless. It is uneven. Lots of starch, little protein, plenty of condiments. Too many things that need water. I supplement with what I can find in guest rooms. Snack bags, trail mix, mini peanut butter cups, tea. I also set traps for mice in the service corridors. Mice are not monsters, but they steal calories and they chew wiring. I use snap traps, and I check them every morning. When I catch one, I do not waste it. I cook it in the stove's coals in a small foil wrap. It is not a meal that makes a person proud. It is a meal that keeps a person moving. Water stays steady because snow stays steady. Still, melting and boiling takes fuel. I start collecting ice from frozen roof runoff where it formed clean sheets away from grime. Ice yields more water per pot. I also set dark tarps on a flat roof section during sunny days. The sun warms the tarp and melts a thin layer beneath it that I can scrape into a bucket. It saves stove fuel and keeps me from running the stove longer than necessary. One night in late January, I wake to a new smell. Not smoke, not food, a sharp electrical odor, faint but real. I sit up and keep still. Then I move through the corridor with my light covered. I trace the smell to a junction box near the laundry room. The insulation on a wire has cracked from cold and age, and it has shorted against the metal box. No fire yet, but heat is building. I shut off the nearest breaker in the electrical room, and the smell fades. Then I spend the next 2 hours replacing that wire with fresh run from the maintenance shop, hands working by headlamp, making sure each connection is tight and each cap is seated. Fire here ends everything. Fire does not care about infected or humans. Fire just eats. In February, storms stack. Snow piles higher against the lodge. The loading bay becomes a trench. The roll-up door starts to bow under pressure. I clear it twice a day. I work in silence, shovel strokes slow, careful, always listening between movements. One morning I find new tracks near the loading bay that do not belong to me. Small boot prints, lighter weight. A person moved here overnight and left. No signs of entry, just scouting. That tells me people are circling the resort more often now, using it as a waypoint. I decide to set a visible warning that does not scream "supplies inside." I take a length of chain and a padlock, and I secure the main lobby doors from the outside. Then I hang a hand-painted sign on a board. Unsafe, no heat, no water, do not enter. It is not fully true. It is true enough to discourage the desperate who want easy comfort. The determined will ignore it. Still, every layer helps. A week later, someone ignores it. I hear it first, a distant crash of glass from the lobby. Not loud enough to shake the building, but sharp and wrong. I go still in my corridor, and I listen for the next sounds. Footsteps, voices, more breaking. I hear 2 voices, both male, echoing through the lobby's open space. I cannot make out words, only tone. The tone is casual, confident, not scared. That means armed. Scared people whisper and rush. Confident people talk. I do not go to the lobby. I do not want a confrontation in a place built to amplify sound. Instead, I retreat deeper and I lock down my zone. I pull the mechanical room door shut and set a steel bar across it. I shut off the stove damper so no fresh smoke goes up the shaft. I kill every light. Then I move to my fallback route, a narrow service tunnel that connects to the maintenance building through an underground utility run. I found it earlier, half flooded, full of old pipes and cables. I cleared a dry path along one side. If the lodge becomes unsafe, I can move to the maintenance building and hold there for a while. The voices move closer over the next hour, drifting from lobby to kitchen, then to staff halls. I hear doors open and close. I hear a laugh once, loud enough that it makes my jaw tighten. Not anger, focus. I keep my body low and my gear ready. I keep my attention on the bell line. If it jingles, it means someone is close. It jingles at last. One bell, then another. The men have entered the service corridor. I hear their boots on concrete, the scrape of a metal object against a wall. One of them speaks, closer now. Smells clean down here. The other answers, means nobody living. Good. Check rooms. They split. That is the dangerous part. Two problems become two angles. I do not shoot. I do not shout. I use the resort itself. I open a door to a side hallway behind me and I slip through. Then I move fast but quiet toward a utility closet that contains a fire alarm pull station. Not to summon help, to create chaos. If I pull it, sirens will scream through the building. That would be a disaster for me too, bringing infected and attention. So I do not pull it. Instead, I find the alarm control panel in a back office, open it with a key I took earlier, and I pull the main sounder fuse. The panel stays lit on battery, but the sirens will not blare. Then, I take a metal pipe and I strike a steel railing hard 2 floors away, down a different corridor. Then I stop. One loud sound, then nothing. Enough to draw attention, not enough to become a constant beacon. The men react exactly how I need. I hear a sharp, "What was that?" Then both sets of footsteps move toward the sound. I hold still in the dark and let them chase uncertainty. After a minute, their voices fade. I use that time to slip back to my mechanical room and reinforce the door again. The resort goes quiet. Then a new crash sounds upstairs. More glass. Maybe they break a window for fun. Maybe they want a second exit. Either way, they are not coming straight back yet. I wait until night, then I make a hard choice. I cannot share this place with roaming predators. If those men set up camp here, my winter plan dies. Still, forcing a fight could kill me. I choose a third option: vanish. I pack only essentials: food for a week, water bottles, stove fuel, medical kit, spare socks, tools, rifle, ammo, headlamp, batteries. I leave the rest staged in hidden caches. Then I move through the utility tunnel to the maintenance building and lock it behind me. From the maintenance building, I can watch the lodge through a narrow window slit I cover with cloth. The men stay active for hours, their lights flickering behind windows, moving room to room. Near midnight, I hear them outside, laughing near the loading bay. Their voices echo off snowbanks. One says something about free hotel. The other says something about find booze. Their laughter cuts off when a moan answers from the base area. Then I hear the crunch of boots running, a shout, a door slam. Cold has slowed the infected, but sound still attracts it. Those men are loud. Loud pulls trouble. In the morning I see it. A cluster of infected near the lodge entrance. 6 at least, maybe more, gathering around the lobby doors and the broken window. They bump and wander, pressing hands against glass. The men inside have a new problem now. They created it. I do not celebrate again. I watch for the outcome that affects me. Around midday, one of the men appears on a second-floor balcony, looking down at the infected. He holds his rifle and points it, then lowers it, then points again. He is doing the same math I did: shoot and make more noise, or wait and risk getting trapped. He backs away from the balcony and disappears inside. By late afternoon, the men make a break for it through a side door on the far end of the lodge. They run across the snow toward the tree line, packs on their backs, moving fast. The infected drift after them, slow but pulled by motion. I watch the men vanish into timber. The infected follow and then scatter. The lodge settles back into stillness, but the damage remains. Broken glass, opened doors, disturbed halls. I wait another full day. Then I return carefully, entering through a different service door, checking every corridor for signs of ambush. My shelter zone holds. The men never found it. My caches remain. My stove remains. Still, the incident forces a rebuild. I spend days resealing doors, resetting bell lines, repairing a broken lock, and cleaning glass shards from a service stairwell. I also add a new layer. I string thin wire across key hallways at shin height with small pieces of aluminum can attached. It makes a faint rattle when disturbed. It is not loud enough to call infected from far away, but it is loud enough to tell me someone is moving close. March arrives with longer daylight, but not kindness. The snowpack reaches its peak. Roof load becomes a daily fight. I shovel until my shoulders burn, stop, then shovel again. I chip ice dams off roof edges with a hammer and a pry bar, careful not to damage shingles. Water that melts in daylight and refreezes at night can seep and then expand, ripping the roof from beneath. I have seen buildings destroyed by nothing but ice and neglect. I will not let this one become my tomb. One afternoon, while clearing a roof edge above the guest wing, I hear a distant engine. Not close. Far down valley, a steady hum that rises and falls. A snowmobile, a truck struggling uphill. I crouch behind a roof vent and watch the road cut through the trees. 10 minutes pass before I see it. A small snowmobile with a sled behind it, moving slow, weaving around drifts. A man drives. A woman rides on the sled, bundled, head down. The machine stops near the gate. The man gets off and fights with the gate, then gives up and turns the snowmobile around. Part of me wants to signal, not for company, for trade. Trade means fuel, medicine, news. News matters more than people admit. News tells you what the world is becoming. Still, signaling means revealing that the resort has a living human inside. That knowledge does not disappear once given. I watch the snowmobile turn and vanish back down valley. I do not wave, I do not shout. I stay hidden, and I keep my winter shelter intact. The first thaw comes in late March, brief, deceptive. Sun warms the south-facing walls and snow begins to slump off roofs in heavy slides. Icicles drip. Water runs in gutters. Then night freezes it all into hard ridges. This freeze-thaw cycle is a new danger. It creates ice sheets on walkways. It blocks drains. It shifts snow load in sudden drops. It also changes infected behavior. In warmer afternoons, I see more movement. The infected that stood nearly still in December now wanders the base area in wider arcs. It bumps into doors more often. It turns its head faster. The cold no longer holds it down. With thaw comes the smell of old garbage from the kitchen wing. Frozen waste begins to soften. I cannot allow that smell to drift outside. Smell attracts animals. Smell attracts people. I spend 2 days hauling bagged trash from back rooms into a sealed compactor area and taping the door seams. I dump bleach on the floor drains and keep the area shut. It is ugly work, but ugly work keeps the rest of my life from turning into an emergency. In early April, I make my spring decision. I cannot stay here forever. The resort helped me survive the first winter, because winter itself slowed the world. Summer will bring movement. Travelers will return to mountain roads. Raiders will look for cool places to camp. Infected will move faster and longer. My supplies will run down. The resort is a good shelter, but it is not a final answer. I start preparing to leave without making it obvious. I repair my car enough to trust it for a descent. I kept it parked out of sight behind the maintenance building, covered with a tarp. Snow shoveled off it after each storm so weight does not crush it. I change the oil with supplies from maintenance. I check belts and hoses. I siphon fuel from resort equipment tanks where I can, filtering it through cloth to catch debris. I stash extra fuel in sealed cans and mark them with tape. I also leave behind something for the next person, not from charity, but because I know how quickly a desperate person can become a loud person. Loud people pull danger. I hide a small cache near the gate, a bottle of water, a couple of food bars, a note that says, "Do not enter lodge, infected nearby. Keep moving." I do not sign it. Names create trails. Trails create problems. On my last night in the mechanical room, I keep the stove off. I sit in the dark and listen to the building. The resort has its own sounds now in my mind. The distant tick of cooling pipes, the faint wind through a vent, the occasional thump of snow sliding off a roof. I think about Aaron and Thomas and the abandoned pack. I think about the two men who tried to claim the lodge and fled. I think about how winter did not save anyone. Winter only slowed the timetable. Every choice still mattered. Every noise still had consequences. At dawn, I pack. I do it in a calm order, checking items off my notebook, not trusting memory. Food, water, tools, medical, heat, light, ammunition. I leave the stove in place. I leave the blankets. I leave most of the pantry supplies hidden. If someone else finds them, good. If the infected takes the lodge, the food becomes useless anyway. I lock the mechanical room door, set the steel bar. Then I walk the corridor one last time and touch each door with the back of my fingers. Everything feels closed. Everything feels temporary. Outside, the base area looks different under spring light. Snow still covers everything, but it has a soft crust now that breaks underfoot. Meltwater runs in thin streams along the lot edges. I see two infected near the ski school building, and one near the main lodge doors, wandering, turning, stopping. None is close to my path. I move with patience, using the lodge wall for cover, keeping my eyes on the tree line. I reach my car, peel back the tarp, load my pack, and start the engine with the muffler still pointed toward the building to block sound. The engine catches on the second try, rough at first, then steady. I do not drive fast. I do not race the mountain. I ease down the access road, keeping tires in the old ruts, braking early, letting the car roll when it can. At the gate, I stop and look back once. The resort sits quiet behind me, big and empty, built for crowds and noise and warm lights, now reduced to a shell that kept one man alive through a season that tried to kill everything. I do not wave goodbye. I do not promise return. I just drive. Halfway down, I see fresh tracks crossing the road. Snowmobile tracks, recent, cutting toward the resort. The same pair from the roof sighting maybe, or someone else. I do not follow them. I keep moving. I want distance before the day warms and movement increases. I want to be off the mountain before the next person decides the lodge is worth fighting for. At the last bend where the trees open and the valley shows itself, I pull over for a moment and kill the engine. I sit and listen again. Same habit, same need to confirm reality. Wind in branches, a crow somewhere. Far off, a faint engine sound that could be anything. I put the key back in and start the car again. I leave the resort behind, and I take my winter with me. Not as a story to brag about, but as a set of rules burned into routine. Stay quiet. Stay controlled. Fix problems early. Never assume a place wants you. A building is not a home. It is a tool. The road drops lower and the snow thins. Patches of wet asphalt show through. That is the real warning. When roads open, people move. When people move, the world gets loud again. I keep driving, eyes scanning for stalled vehicles, for bodies on the shoulder, for anything that suggests an ambush or a pileup. I keep my speed low enough to stop, high enough to not get boxed in. The first winter is over, the next season begins, and it does not care what I survived.